And so the idea was that we could bring everybody together, show our gratitude for, having those relationships and just all being able to do such great work together.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Connections That Matter. Today, I have one of my good friends, Collin Larsen from Acre Roofing here with us today. Collin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Collin Larsen, I know Acre has been around a long time. It's been a family business. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so my dad started Acre Roofing in 2014, and I don't know exactly where he got the motivation to start a roofing company. And then everybody asked him if he's ex-military. He kind of looks like it, and if that's where the whole Anchor made its way into the name. But it's funny, that's not actually the case. He just, alphabetical order is obviously a big player there. And then, we grew up on a lake, and so living there for so long, Anchor kind of just made sense. And so he started that company. There was a huge need for roofs. Obviously, we get a lot of hail here in Colorado, and he wanted to start something different. We had people constantly knocking on our door asking about roofs and if we wanted an inspection, and so that gets pretty bothersome after a while. And you let them go up there just to try and get rid of them, and then they tell you, everything's smoked. You need to file a claim. You got to do this and that, and that's not always the case. And so he decided that there was a better way to do it, and that was, just through networking, through referrals, and working with people, building relationships so that when someone is in that position, they know someone who can help walk them through those complicated insurance processes and, just kind of hold their hand through that and make it a smooth process rather than what has happened in the industry for so long.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to get into the networking and all that stuff, but before I want to mention your shirt, like the family barbecue. You got the Anchor,
yep.
So tell me about the barbecue recipe.
It was so no recipe. We actually had it was a taco truck, which is funny. But a few years ago, let's see, what was this? 2021. We had we've built a huge network of just different realtors, insurance agents, and a huge, a lot of customers, and then a lot of subs as well, people that we work with. And it's really kind of worked its way into a family. Everybody knows each other, and if a realtor of ours needs gutters and knows they don't really need the roof, we have someone they can just reach out to themselves. And so the idea was that we could bring everybody together, show our gratitude for, having those relationships and just all being able to do such great work together. And then also just, have some fun, bring the family. We've got tacos, not quite barbecue, but they were really good tacos. I wish that I still remembered the name of the taco guy. He deserves a shout out because they were incredible.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, very cool. Well, hail, I'm a real estate investor. We have a bunch, and it'll start to hail Colorado. I'm like, oh, please don't hit our stuff. And then it will or it won't. But man, every time there's a storm, if I'm driving through the neighborhood, there's probably 4 or 5 different roofing companies all door knocking and different things. And so it seems like a very competitive industry. How do you separate yourself from everyone else who's doing roofing?
Yeah, it is. It is very competitive. I don't try to look at it that way because I think there is so much to go around, and there's also a lot more to roofing than just hailstorms.
Sure,
a common one which I'm sure you're familiar with is when you're selling your house. There's, you should always have the roof inspected and, have a trusted roofer out there. And just to take a look, because if it's, Joe Bob from three doors down working on your neighbor's house, he might tell you something, that it's more damage than it is to try and get you to file insurance. Then that creates a huge, doubt for the possible buyer. And then, now the roof has to get replaced, even though it really wasn't that damaged. But yeah, so the way that we kind of get our leads is all referral based rather than that door knocking. So, it's funny. How did it start, right? The chicken or the egg? Probably the first realtor that we started working with, we did a great job for them. And before the deal was, said and done, we reached out to the buyer's agent and said, hey, we're the people who did the roof. If you need any help, if anything comes up, here's where you can find us. And then from there, you can just imagine how it branches out, and providing excellent service, to our customers as well. They know a roofer who they had a great experience with. A lot of roofing companies, there's multiple people you'd have to work with, right? There's the guy who knocks on your door, and then he sets you up with the guy that comes by and does the inspection and maybe gets you an estimate. And then once you're done with that guy, you reach out to, or a project manager will reach out to you, and they'll let you know how the job's being scheduled and what's going on there. And then by the end of it, you are in contact with the billing department, and they're the ones sending you the invoice. Yeah. And so it's just all these different hands in the hat, right? And so at Anchor Roofing, we try to avoid that by I am the only one you'll ever have to work with. Nice. Or one of our project managers. They'll be the only face you ever have to see, basically from start to finish. They'll inspect your roof. Because let's say you call them because your realtor or insurance agent said, hey, I know a guy who you can get a quote from. He's a trusted. We've worked with him before. And so then you call, and we'll come out, take a look at the roof. Let's say you need to file an insurance claim because there was a hailstorm that just came through. We'll then meet with the adjuster when they go to look at your roof, and just basically help them identify anything that they're looking for, or do a quick walk around the house with them and just hang out, basically be your concierge through that process. And then when it comes to the project management side of it, we work directly with our subcontractors and with our suppliers. So we know basically it's one person knows everything about your job. And then at the end of the day, we're the ones delivering the invoice. And then also we like to say that that's when our relationship starts, because if anything goes wrong in the next 10 years, our standard warranty is the 10-year roof penetration. So we'll be the person that you can call in the future as well.
Very cool. So are your primary referral sources real estate agents, or do you get them other places as well?
Yeah, mostly real estate agents. Occasionally HVAC people, HVAC crews will be up on the roof replacing something and see, this is pretty questionable damage up here. You might want to call somebody. And also insurance agents, because we work directly with insurance on a lot of things, making sure that they are taking note of every aspect of your roof that was damaged. And so that process is called supplementing. But we try to develop good relationships with those agents. And then obviously when the work is done well, you'd rather work with those people again. So insurance agents is a big one. And other than that, really just all of our customers are great referral sources, because we try to treat each job like it's our last. Mm-hmm. And if this was your last dollar that you ever get to spend on marketing, you'd take full advantage of it. Yeah. And so trying to put that quality of work out there so that it continues to come back.
Yeah, give one of your real estate agents that send you referrals a shout out. What do you love about them? How do they hand it off? That there's three-way communication and referral. If they have a house that they're selling, they need an inspection, or a buyer might be like, hey, there's still a 3-tab roof on there, and I want a different one. How do you navigate all of those communications back and forth between everybody?
Communication can be tough, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Through these processes, dealing with insurance or you're selling a house and your real estate agent's working directly with the roofer and you're left out of the loop, don't know what's going on. I think that I'm kind of known as an over communicator. Okay. And I'm sure Stephanie Stewart with Elevation Homes, we've worked together in the past. And so she basically had a house and she called me and said, I know it's got hail damage. The adjuster's going to be coming out this day. What's next? And I told her, well, I'll go and meet the adjuster and we can take a look at the roof together and I'll let you know what I find out. And then in turn, I also request, okay, well, who's the homeowner? I'd like to just let them know what I'm seeing, what the process is going to look like, and answer any questions if they have them. But it can be tricky. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is just the under communication or leaving somebody out of the loop. And so when it comes to situations like that, no one's ever really gotten mad at the guy who over communicates.
Sure.
So that I just kind of err on the side of caution. I'll just let everybody know 2 or 3 times if I have to, just till I feel good about it. That way nothing ever comes back.
Yeah. Well, and so you're not just a roofing company, you do solar as well. I'm fascinated by solar just because people buy it for different reasons. One, they want to save money, or they want to be more green. What do you see as the primary buying decisions for putting solar on a roof?
Yeah. I think that the primary reason, and these two are actually pretty close. So there's 2 main reasons, I'd say. And the first one would be those long-term financial savings, right? A lot of people think it's a myth, and if you don't do it the right way, it can be. However, with the right products and the right system and the right opportunity, it can have a great financial payout. As early as 7 years. Basically, you're no longer paying for electricity; you're getting it 100% for free, and because you basically prepaid it. And so I think that the number one reason why people get it is probably financial savings, but the close second is going to be the energy independence. When, say, you live in Alt, Colorado, and your power goes out, and I know some people in Alt, and their power will go out for up to 8 hours at a time. And so for situations like that, it might cost a lot for some backup batteries to last you 8 hours of, in case the power gets shut off. But in that event, you're able to supply your family with electricity. And, say you've got a grandma who has some medical equipment that can't be turned off, then, you're gonna have a huge need for that. And your options are either move out of that house in Alt or put her somewhere else. And that might be, pretty tricky, pretty uncomfortable. And in that scenario, batteries are a great option, and having that independence can, for a lot of people, it can really protect them and their values.
No, I didn't even think about it in that realm. But if I'm helping somebody, maybe they're getting on oxygen, they're on some surgeon and stuff. To have a conversation about solar might feel like out of the block, but it's really not, because having either the backup generators or backup batteries. And so, what other things do you see as far as opportunities like that could get you in the door, and other people that you could collaborate with to get more leads through referrals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everybody's trying to save money, right? If you're not, everybody's first goal is making money. And after that, people often forget that the next best option is to save money. And what does that look like? So people usually start with, okay, what am I paying for that I can stop paying for? And they download, Rocket Money or one of those
Sure.
apps and
Yeah.
start canceling subscriptions. And people often overlook their electric bill because, they view that more as something like Wi-Fi. It's a necessity. It's just something that comes every month. It's got too many line items for me to really even know what I'm paying for. It's just something I pay. And so for a situation like that, they will start looking into things like, energy efficient windows or energy, these things called splits, where it basically it can save you some money on electricity, right? And so for electricians who install those items that are going to be more electricity friendly, they would be a great referral source.
Sure.
Telling people, hey, there's also this thing called solar. You can get a tax credit. It can actually pay off itself. The technology's come a long ways. And so I met with an insurance adjuster yesterday looking at a roof, and we got into solar a little bit. And, he was just so set on the idea that solar will never pay for itself, and it's really just a commodity. And I went back and forth with him for a while and kind of broke down all those objections. But even, just the average Joe who doesn't know the benefits and doesn't really see it the way that I see it, it's tough to think of referral opportunities because a lot of people don't believe in it. And the thing is that the technology has come a long ways. The federal tax credit has come a long ways from 20% to 30% over time in increments. But now it's at a point where it makes a lot more sense than people understand. And so really it's tough to think of exact referral sources. I'm
Sure.
still figuring that part out, but right now it's just again, with those real estate agents that I lean on, everybody asks their real estate agent before they do something to your house. It's pretty funny, but they're also a great person to ask, so
Yeah.
they see it all.
Well, when the hailstorm hit, I needed the window glazing, right? The little plastic things that are on the outside of the windows, chip some of the frame, new siding potentially. But even like the HVAC is, you brought that up as like people are wanting to save money. They get a mini split or they get a more energy efficient condenser of some kind. But the hailstorm comes, it's coming out of the sky. It's going to dent that condenser up too, and I imagine that the insurance adjuster is getting involved, the real estate agent, but to have people that you are confident working with, collaborative, that treat your clients the same way that you do, there's a lot of people that are involved in mitigation after a storm of some kind.
Yeah, it can be quite the project. It's unfortunate. A lot of homeowners are forced to become general contractors in a situation like that. So it's I'm always happy when I'm able to refer out people for the siding or for the repainting. All of those tasks that come in. I can give you a name that someone I've worked with. They've done great work for me. I know people who are really happy with them, and so that's always a cool opportunity to try and help homeowners through that process.
Sure.
Hail. It's
Well, and some roofing companies, like, they do it all in house, right? They do the roofing, the painting, the exterior. I've seen it. Like, I do exterior contracting, right? So they do all the stuff. And has Anchor ever tried to go down that road, or do you like having other partners with you that you can refer out to?
So for us, we've always kind of had the motto, stick to what you're good at, right? So for us, that is roof and gutters. Stick to what we know. We know we can deliver a great service there. And, our partners that we work with on the other stuff, we're happy to give out their name. And, we don't necessarily need any piece of that pie. Just stick to what we're good at. I actually used to work for a company that did everything all around the house. And what I found was that it turned into, it was one of those situations where I was the guy not knocking on the door. I was the guy that came after the guy that knocked on your door.
Okay.
And my job, they trained me to walk around the house and just figure out, point out every single thing that's wrong with the house, and then stick these people with a contract, send it to the project management team, never think about it again. And so I think that when you start taking on a lot of services for one project manager, that can be a lot to juggle, right? Especially when you're juggling 4 other jobs that week. And so I think when it gets to be a lot of work like that, I'm sure there's companies out there that do the work, right? They do it all and they do a great job. But I've found that a lot of those companies, things can slip through the cracks. It's just a lot of work. And you also don't get the benefit of, having that one project manager, that one point of contact where you don't have to worry about, something getting slipped through the cracks or being left out of the loop, when it's just one person who you can always point your finger back to.
Well, one thing I believe is you dig the well before you're thirsty, right? You want to have all those contacts before the storm hits so that, they have the do not solicit sign out there, but they're calling you, right?
Yeah.
Instead of calling somebody else or signing up. But also through that, I see a real boom bust. You said you've been in business since 2014, but we don't get hail every year, or we don't get hail as much in other years. And so I see all of a sudden we'll have a big weather event. There's going to be a lot of roofs that need to be replaced. All of a sudden there's a lot more roofing companies everywhere, roofing companies that I've never heard of. And then we have a lighter year and everybody's fighting for the same lesser amount of deals, and then I see people go out of business and all of a sudden do another kind of trend. So what do you think is the reason that you've been so consistent and able to survive the highs and the lows?
It's a great question. And I think it's something that's really special about Anchor Roofing. And I think it really ties back into the business model of referral-based leads, right? So when the storm hits and all the door knockers go out from all these roofing companies coming from Texas and Illinois, they come from all over. Anchor, so basically we have had the benefit of when that storm happens, people will usually call their insurance company, and their insurance company is able to refer a company they've worked with. And so then now, instead of, you had your roof inspected, but a lot of people are, smart enough to get multiple opinions. And so they'll call their insurance agent, get that referral, or call their real estate agent and get that referral. And then, of course, as I was saying before, hail isn't our number one time of the year. It is our number one time of the year, but these hailstorms will carry over. I see roofs that I'm quoting for or getting an insurance agent out there from hail that happened 2 years ago. And some insurance companies, if hail does hit your house, you should reach out to your insurance or a local roofer within 1 to 2 years. And so I know with State Farm, they will value a storm for up to 2 years. But if you miss that window, then they will no longer value that claim. So it's important to hit it in the right time frame. But I would say it's the fact that all of our business is referral based and built on relationships.
Awesome. So, 2014, I don't know how old you are, but you look like a younger guy. Like, I imagine Collin was, you weren't roofing back then, but what made you want to become a roofer or join the family business?
Yeah, it was actually when I was working for that company I mentioned earlier. I was going out to these lead appointments in places where someone had just gone and knocked on a door and convinced somebody to take an appointment, right? And so when I was doing that, I ended up this 83-year-old lady out in Kersey, Colorado, right on the border of Kansas. I drove all the way out there pretty much through the night and met with her to look at replacing 2 bathrooms. And her bathrooms didn't necessarily need replaced. I don't know how someone knocked on her door and convinced her to have me out there, but my job was to sell her these bathrooms. And so I did my best, and she said yes. And she was 83 years old, agreeing to $60,000 worth of work for 2 bathrooms just to be, remodeled. And personally, I don't think we had the best product in the industry at the time either. And so it was $60,000 on, a subpar product, which she signed the contract. She wanted to do it. And in retrospect, I wasn't going to see those bathrooms get installed. I wasn't going to be a part of the process. And so I'm telling her how great of a company we are and how we're going to deliver on our work. And I didn't know that for certain. And so that kept me up. I was thinking to myself, okay, well, who's going to end up having to pay for those bathrooms? And I felt pretty bad about it. And so I left that company and, bounced around a little bit. I've always liked working on houses. I was a framer in high school, working for a local one of my buddy's dads, Weimer Construction. And so I got to be a part of some great processes of building some cool houses, a couple barn dominiums. It was awesome. And the satisfaction that it always gave customers was great. I remember putting in I did concrete for them as well for a little while and building a basketball court, and everybody was so stoked. It came out really well. And so being able to work on people's houses and give them that satisfactory is great. And then also knowing that, what I'm talking about, I'm actually going to be able to deliver on. It's not going to be someone else. I'm not handing this to anyone else. I'm able to make these promises and keep them. And so it was an obvious decision. My dad actually asked me to come and work for him. He just needed some help. All the project managers through a really busy season. It helps to have somebody kind of like a glorified errand boy, running materials, making sure everything's getting picked up on every job. And so I started by just doing that when he needed some help. And then it was an obvious decision to try and promote myself or get promoted to a project manager and be able to help people with insurance and actually deliver on the promises I was going to be able to make. And then from there, when we started introducing solar about 10 months ago, I was just really interested in it. And, I really enjoyed the idea of helping people save money. And we work with a bunch of solar companies to remove and detach and reset solar. And so it's always been a market that we wanted to dive into. But at the time, 10 years ago, solar didn't make as much sense. The technology wasn't as far ahead as it is now, and the financial benefits just weren't quite there. So if it wasn't something we wouldn't put on our own house, we wouldn't encourage anyone else to put it on theirs. And so when we started offering that about a year ago, I was really interested in it, and it's been really fun to learn all of it and be able to help people with that. So.
Awesome, Collin. Well, love having you on the show. There's a lot of people watch this and they're like, oh, I would love to meet him or take him out for coffee or collaborate. Is there any kind of connection specifically that you're looking for?
Yeah. I love working with real estate agents.
Sure.
They constantly, if it's, they just need a house inspected and they want somebody that, they've had inspect a handful of houses in the past and been able to deliver. And so I like to think that I am that person. And so I love working with real estate. It's really interesting to me. Everybody asks their real estate agent before they do anything to their house. It's the most interesting thing. But so I'd say real estate agents primarily, yeah.
All right. Well, if you're a real estate agent and you're looking for somebody that can help you close more deals or navigate the buying and selling process, reach out to Collin. Really great guy, great company. Collin, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so our main line is 970-690-1020. We've got an office located in Johnstown right next to Shields. And just give us a call, and we'd be happy to help out whoever we can.
Well, Collin, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Cool.